Alright, hey there. I didn't know if I would be making another one of these videos, but here we are. The last one did actually decently well for one of my videos, so I figured, well, why not give it another shot? Like I said in one of my other videos, I think the reason it did poorly at first and then kind of started to pick up a little bit of traction was because YouTube started recommending it to different people than I normally get my videos recommended to. So, theoretically, making these videos is not great for the long-term growth of my channel, but who knows. But anyway, we're back on the same project, as you can see, and we're just going to kind of keep working with it. Since we left off, in the last video, we were working on the stock. In particular, we were working on this piece. I ended up scrapping what we had made in that video, because sometimes you just gotta realize that you've made a mistake. And yeah, I just went back and remade it. It was really chunky. It was really thick looking. So to get around that, I extended out these, connectors rather than extending out the entire thing. And also I made it a perfect cylinder at the top and the bottom. Before it was kind of a rounded rectangle. I just found that it looks better as a circle. My original motivation for making it a rounded rectangle was because I thought that the stock I was basing it off of was a rounded rectangle, but I actually looked it up and it is a perfect cylinder, so it's more realistic and it looks better this way. So yeah, that's what we ended up doing. But the weapon is pretty much complete. As you can see, there's a lot more details than there were last time. I don't remember exactly where we were the last time. I know we were working on the stock, but I don't remember if like this was made or like the magazine release. This is based off of the B&T GL06, which is a grenade launcher, but in this world it's a submachine gun. On the GL06, this is actually how you actuate the tube. It swivels up when you actuate this button, and that's how you get the grenades in and out. But I figured for my model, I could just reuse that feature as the bolt release. So this is your magazine release. You press that down. It's like a MP7 mag release. You would push that down to release the magazine. And then this is the bolt release, so it would, last round bolt hold open, and then you would press that to drop the bolt. Then we've got our safety selector here. This is a kind of, I based it off of the AK-12 prototype from 2012. The safety selector on that gun, it looks a lot like this, so that's what I was going for. It has a few issues. Number one being I don't really know where to put the indicators. So I'm thinking that, let me just really quickly, there we go. All right, so, I'm thinking that like the back position would be safe, so that when you're holding it, you just, you flick it forward with your thumb. I feel like that would be the most intuitive way to do it. But the problem is I don't know where to put the indicators of like this position is safe. The middle position would be semi-auto probably. And then, the forward position would be full auto. Because there's not a lot of real estate here. I wouldn't want to put it down here necessarily, because this is where the person's hand is going to be, so they would be covering it with their hand. And there's not a lot of room up here to put the indicators, especially because when the stock is collapsed, it would be covering them. Not that you would ever really use the weapon with the stock collapsed. That's mostly just for, being in a vehicle or just for shipping and storage and stuff. But whenever it comes to actually using the weapon, you would probably have it extended most of the time. So I guess they could still go up there, but yeah, that's just something I'm gonna have to decide about when I actually give this a proper texture. Right now it's just kind of using placeholder textures. It's just like a blanket flat image across the whole thing. It gets the idea across, but it's not as good as it could be. But yeah, the weapon is for the most part complete at this point in terms of modeling. Right now I'm just kind of going through and trying to, fix things up, change small details that I'm not super fond of. So for instance, looking at this, I feel like the bevel is a bit too strong. I could, if I wanted to, I could harden the normals, although this doesn't have auto smooth on. There we go. And that looks a little better, I would say, because it's not quite as obvious that, it's just like a single huge bevel. I'd probably crank up the number of bevels though. So if I turn that off, you can see what I'm doing is, before it was just a single segment. So it's just, if I turn this off completely, this is the actual shape of this piece. This is what I've modeled. But when you bevel it using the bevel modifier, it'll just take all of the angles and cut them into pieces. So it kind of softens it, makes it look a bit more realistic, because in the real world, nothing ever comes to a perfect 90-degree angle like that, so you don't get the reflection off of the edge when you model things like that. It doesn't look nearly as convincing. You can see it also if I were to turn it off of this object. Notice how, that looks a lot more like something you might see in like a video game, right? Even though a lot of video games nowadays use things like normal maps to fake the bevel. I mean, usually they're baked from like a higher poly mesh and whatnot, but regardless, it just looks a lot more fake. And then you add the bevel on there and suddenly it looks more like something you would see in the real world. So I bevel everything. And to be fair, I usually use a pretty big bevel, probably bigger than I should, but I do like the look of the bigger bevel. But I do think that this looks a little wrong, a little too polygonal. Too many polygons are like visible, I would say. So we are gonna try to change that. But yeah, I'm not exactly sure how I want to do that. The hardened normals actually didn't look too bad, so I might go with that. And I do kind of like that soft contour, I don't want this to be super sharp, because my other option would be to not do hardened normals, bring it back down to 1, because I usually use just 1 bevel. I think that's really all you need most of the time. But my other option would be to drop the size, so that's probably too much, but like something like that maybe. And I mean, that does work as well. But I don't know if I like that. So what did we have it at? We had it maxed out. It's hard to tell exactly where it maxes out because it clamps, so I don't actually have to input an amount to get it to its maximum amount. I can kind of try to find it by just going as high as I can before I actually see any change, Alright, so there. It's about 1.5 millimeters of bevel, because that's about as big as we can go. That's 1.5. So I can pull it down to 1 millimeter, and that does look a little bit better, especially on this inside detail here. It's not quite as hectic. I might go with that. That's also less geometry than using more segments, which is the downside. So you'll see, like in the wireframe here, I mean, you could see it like this as well, but there's just a lot more geometry here than here, and that just comes down to like optimization and whatnot. The fewer polygons your mesh has, the faster it will render. Not that I'm too concerned about optimization, clearly. There's a lot of details here that are like way higher poly than they really need to be. But, you know, I like the details. I don't really like using hardened normals, personally. But I think I might go with that, honestly. I don't think that looks too bad. Is there there's a pretty significant difference between one segment. This is one segment. It's interesting because, you know, this is a completely flat face, even though it looks like it's rounded. And if I go at an angle, you can see that it's not actually as rounded as it appears. And you can see that in the wireframe as well. That's the magic of normal mapping. This has the same amount of geometry. There is a pretty substantial difference, though, between how the one segment looks and the two segments, because it more correctly follows the actual curve that you appear to see. But I don't know if there's a big difference between 2 and 3. I mean, it does look better, but I don't know if it's worth it. It is a pretty big bevel, though. If it was smaller, I'd probably just keep it at 2 or even go down to 1. But I think I'll probably do 3 here. Let's see. We're also going to do that. We're going to turn off loop slide so that, because it was kind of getting messed up here because the geometry is not incredible. The topology is not incredible. Let's connect those somehow. Again, topology is not my strong suit, but I do a good enough job to get the job done. I think I'll go with that, and I think that looks better. That looks more like, you know, a piece of metal, I guess. It looks a little smoother, it looks a little bit more comfortable to hold, more like a finished product, you know. Originally, I was considering, you know, sometimes when I'm designing a weapon like this, I try to consider how it would be taken apart because, you know, guns in real life are disassemblable so that you can clean them or switch out the parts, you know, fix them, whatever. So it seems pretty obvious to me that the barrel assembly, and this is, you know, I don't know if I mentioned this in the last video, but I intended for this weapon to be an integrally suppressed submachine gun. It would make sense to me that this kind of barrel assembly area would just detach entirely. Now we've got this top rail, which goes along kind of I guess this is like the upper receiver, but it's kind of all one piece, so I guess it's just the receiver. It's screwed into the receiver as well as the barrel, so I guess to take this apart you would have to unscrew these two from the back, and you could just leave that on if you really wanted to. But I was thinking, you know, it would probably need more than just this to hold it into place. Originally I was kind of thinking that I might do kind of like an AK style, you know, on the back of the AK dust cover, there's that button that holds the dust cover into place. I was thinking I could maybe do something similar there, where it's like a button here that, you know, latches onto something at the bottom here of this barrel assembly, and you just press that button in when these screws are unscrewed, and that allows you to take the barrel off somehow. I ended up not doing that simply because I was lazy. But I don't know if I still want to try that or not. It wouldn't be terribly hard to add that detail. I just don't know if it's worth it at all. Because, yeah, I don't know. I guess there's also these screws that you have to imagine are holding something on, you know. So maybe this barrel assembly, even though it looks, you know, cylindrical, there's no saying that there isn't something down here that's connected to this that holds that into place. You would have to take those apart as well to get that out. And I think that makes a bit more sense. It's reasonable to assume that these are the same size, so you would only need one Allen key to take apart the whole thing. Everything on here is held together using hex screws, so Yeah, I think that's fine. I think we can leave that the way it is. The one thing I haven't done yet is on this piece, the part that holds it onto the Picatinny rail on the back. Because technically the whole stock part is just, its own thing. The gun itself is really just this part, It's just got a Picatinny on the back. A lot of guns are doing that nowadays, I guess, just to be more compatible with aftermarket parts and everything. But either way, there's actually no like feature here that would actually keep it on. It has the cutout for the rail, but it doesn't have the thing there. In the picture, you can see that there is this like opening. There's this thing that holds it on. So I'll have to add something like that at some point, although I'm now realizing that I didn't make the flat section quite as large as it appears in this picture. So I'll have less room to work with for that particular detail. I might kind of just have to cheese it a little bit, do it a little bit differently than it actually is in real life, but sometimes you just got to do that. I'm now realizing that I didn't return this to its original position, so I'm just gonna have to eyeball it, but that's all good. What else? Also, there's not really much of an interior in here. I have this bolt from another gun that I've made. I had to shorten it a lot. This is like an AR-15 bolt. I mean, it's very crude, and it's simplified, but it was good enough that like if you saw it for like a frame within there, then maybe it would look good. But other than that, there's nothing else in here. It's just empty inside. Whoops. Here's the clay render if you want to see that. But yeah, there is nothing else inside here. I mean, obviously you've got the magazine, and it just clips through the bottom of the receiver. Yeah. Ideally, I would connect, because there is actually a hole up through here. It's just I didn't connect those bits of geometry, so it just kind of ends, and then there's a floor to the inside here. So there's no actual hole that allows that to go in there. It's one of those details where it's like, I don't know if it's worth it. I mean, if I really wanted to go all out, sure. But, yeah, I don't know. For this project in particular, I wanted it to have flip-up iron sights. Particularly, I wanted it to have the Magpul M-Bus iron sights, MBUS. I don't know how you're supposed to say it. I just say M-Bus. But I have a different file that I just model all of my attachments in, that I can append into this scene, or well, any scene that I want, and it just has all my attachments in the same place. But I did model those, and I can bring them in. So this is my wall of attachments. Hold on one sec, I have to outliner. Here we go. Attachments. Gotta select objects. Just bring them over here for the time being. So we've got the iron sights here, so we can bring these over. it's a little hard to see what you're doing sometimes, but as long as you can line them up, it's just all good. Then you can, you know, you line it up with the actual teeth, because, you know, you're trying to be realistic about this stuff. We're going to put it there because when it's flipped down, well, we want to turn that off and that off. So like that. That way it's lined up with the back. In fact, that actually might also be too far back as well. Let's, why does that keep turning on? Let's put it there. And then the front one goes up here. Put it there. And we can flip that down as well. So, there we go. It has to compile the shaders for all the attachments I appended. There we go. But there we go. It's got some iron sights now. And yeah, it looks pretty good. I really like the look of these iron sights. They just look really cool, in my opinion. I've always liked these flip-up ones. I don't even know if these are really that popular or if they get used all that much anymore, but yeah, I liked them, so I added them. Technically, I can't say that they're Magpul because, you know, for legal reasons, I didn't get any licensing. So these just happen to be coincidentally very similar looking iron sights to the ones Magpul makes, but they aren't Magpul, okay? And to be fair, they're not exactly perfect anyway. So yeah, but we can just flip those down. But yeah, got the spring, everything. I was pretty happy with how these models turned out. Again, it's not 100%. I think the gap here is a little bit larger than it is on the real thing, but it looks good enough that, you know, I don't think a regular person's going to be able to tell. Another thing I really like to add to, especially SMGs, but you can add this to any gun, is a little like thing at the front so that your hand doesn't run off the front of the something like that. Not all of these attachments are made to quite the same standard. This one was made a little bit longer ago than these. My modeling skills improve over time, so the ones that are older look a little bit worse. But anyway, I like adding that kind of feature to the front, that like overhang so that your hand doesn't slip up in front. Although on this particular weapon, it's not that big of an issue because, you know, it sticks out. My original design, like I said before, was going to be more like this. And in this case, it would be more important to have that because if your hand slipped up in front of that, then you could shoot yourself in the hand, and that would be pretty bad. But we went with this design, so yeah, it's not as big of a deal, but I still like how that looks. I like having that the little thing there. And then, you know, you can add a grip to it. Let's add this one. This little one. Small gun gets the small grip. You gotta line it up with the thing, and then you gotta line this up. Let's put it there. So there, it's got a little grip. Might move it a little bit forward. Maybe like that. But yeah, this is the best part of modeling guns and having like an assortment of attachments already made. Is you can just mess around. Like maybe we want to put like a... Why does that keep turning on? That is so annoying. I think my mouse is messed up or something, or maybe my keyboard is sticky. That came out really wrong. By sticky, I mean like the keys like stick close, because when you press Shift and Tab, it turns on the... if you can see down here, it turns on that. But to get into edit mode, you press Tab, And I'm holding shift, pressing shift a lot because that's how you navigate. So I think what's happening is shift is getting, like, the keyboard thinks shift is being pressed whenever I press tab, and then it does that, and then that stays on, and it's really annoying. But anyway. But maybe we want to put like a really big scope on this gun for, you know, not any particular reason, but just because we can. And I think we need to flip this down so that that doesn't get in the way. But then, yeah, boom. You've got a sniper scope on your gun. Does it make sense on an SMG? Not really, but it just looks cool. That's all I care about, is things that look cool. And that looks pretty sick to me. Yeah. And all the combinations you can make too is super fun. I mean, even with this fairly limited selection of attachments, you can do like quite a few combinations of things. You can put a flashlight on there. Something like that. I put that in the wrong spot. There. And then we need to not have that clip into itself. Something like that. And then boom. Flashlight. It doesn't have a cable going to anything right now, but you know, it could have a cable that runs to something over here. A button on the side, a tape switch, something like that. This is the joy of 3D modeling. When it's kind of like everything comes together. It's up front. It's kind of a daunting time investment to like make these things. But once you have them, the beauty of it is that you never lose them, right? I mean, unless you accidentally like delete the file or something, which would suck ass really badly. But yeah, once you have them, you have them. And you can do whatever you want with them. And you can combine them in cool ways like this. Or maybe we want to put a laser on our shit, you know? And it got turned on again. It's easy enough for me to turn it off, but it's still annoying when it happens. Where is it? I don't know, put it like there or something. And boom, now we got a laser on the side of it too. This thing is insane. That would really get in the way of your hand. So that's a really terrible place to put it. I would have put it on the top rail, but there isn't really enough room for it underneath the sniper scope. The LPVO. By Hucon. I love also making up a bunch of fictional companies that make all these things. So you can see up here, we've got, this is the weapon is called the Denman Gliss 512. Denman is just some random corporation I made up. The Gliss stands for grip loading integrally suppressed, because, you know, it's a through the grip mag. Ironically, you could also think of it as grenade launcher because it's based off of a grenade launcher from real life, but, you know, whatever. And then the 512 is just the cartridge that it fires. It's a 512 by 23 round. Similar in size to like the 5.7 by 28, which is kind of what it was based on. It's a little bit smaller, decently smaller, but, you know. Yeah. But yeah, you can do whatever you want. We could get rid of that, and we could add a different sight, or we could just leave it with the iron sights. I mean, iron sights are cool. Iron sights are pretty rad. But if we don't want to do that, then we can come over here to our wall of attachments. And I mean, we could use, let's use this. let's put it like up there. And since we've got room, let's move this to the top rail because that's more effective. It's better placement. How far can we put that forward? Something like that, if we can. Can we get it there? It clips a little tiny bit, but I'm going to overlook that. This is just the rubber covering anyway, so that would get pushed out of the way if it needed to be. So that works, and then we have two optics that fit on this mounting pattern. This is just like my micro red dot optic size. And yes, I know that they wouldn't really work like this. Well, this one actually would, but the other one wouldn't. But again, so long as it seems functional, I don't care if it actually would be functional. We can drop that down a bit. So then, I mean, like, you could do that. That's one configuration. And that looks pretty sick. I like that. Or you could get this one, and again, that got turned on every single time. So this is the one that would not function. I mean, there's nothing holding it on, but we're going to ignore that. Shh, don't tell anyone. Something like that. And then ideally we would have these flipped down like that, kind of in the way. So let's pull this back a bit to like there, and then we can flip that down all the way, and we can flip that one down to like there, and then we can actually probably move it forward one more, and that got turned back on again. Yeah, we could probably do it like that, and there's nothing plugged into these, so we can hide those. We might actually be able to get it forward one more. Yeah, I think we could do that. And then you got that. This is based off of the Aimpoint T2, but in this world it is the Masavan QuickPoint 2. Because, you know, we don't want to get sued. But yeah, then you got something like that. That looks pretty cool. You know, we could put a bipod on there if we wanted to. You never know when you might need a bipod. See, where is it? There it is. Something like there, I guess. And that fits with the other thing on there as well. I guess we would ideally want it a little bit further forward than that. I guess we're just going to have to remove the other thing. Let's put it like there. And we can remove this. And boom. You've got a bipod on your integrally suppressed submachine gun. Because, you know, you never know when you're going to need that, really. And we can flip these down. And boom. I mean, have you ever seen a more stable shooting platform? I don't think so. I don't think so. But yeah, this is just so fun to just mess around with this stuff. Let's remove the bipod. And we can put the hand stop back on there. We could leave it without a grip. It looks pretty good. If you were going to do no grip, I would probably add a rail cover. And that got turned back on again. How many times will Connor complain about that getting turned on? as many times as it happens, ladies and gentlemen. But yeah, put a rail cover on there. So that way you don't slice your hand up on the edges. You could put it on the other sides as well if you really, really wanted to. So there you go. But yeah, typically I like the look of a grip. We could go with the BCM grip that's legally not the BCM grip. It would be cool to have some kind of like automated system that would just like, you know, like a video game where you can just like tell it what to put on there and it would just do it. But setting that up would take a lot of time, especially since you'd have to do it for every gun individually. So I think it's just as well that you just do it manually every time. But yeah, that's what we're working with so far. So the last time you saw it, maybe it wasn't looking that hot. But now, I mean, look at this glow up. I wish I had the old file of what it looked like in the last video so that I could do like a, you know, a comparison. But anyway, yeah, this video has been about the same length as the other one. We didn't really do a whole lot. I mean, I guess we changed this, so that was productive. But otherwise, I was just kind of showing off what we've got so far. But yeah, it looks good. I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. Like I said, this one's pretty much done. The only thing left at this point is just to texture it so that it has the details. Like, I'm thinking in this area, you know, that you're going to have like the serial number and information and stuff. And then obviously here we need to put, or up here or something, we need to have the indicators for safe and semi and stuff. But other than that, I think we're pretty much good. Might put some branding on the barrel here as well. But overall, yeah, that's basically it. But anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully I didn't talk too loud in this video. I wasn't trying as hard, I feel like, to stay at a minimal volume so that hopefully won't come back to bite me. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you later.